Hi, I'm Heyzeus, and this is a video on a bunch of Easter eggs and secrets that exist in the skins in the Prisma Case. Some of it you could probably describe as just being lore as well, but regardless, I'm hoping it's all interesting. Now, I do have to thank Pardalowski for figuring all this stuff out on this Reddit thread, and this is being used with permission, and I'll drop a link to it in the description, and I have to give him a cut of the ad revenue as well, so big thanks to him. And with that, I'll get started on the skins. We're going to start with the blues and end on the reds. So our first gun is the FAMAS Crypsis, and from a distance it looks like a bunch of sticks and leaves spread out all over a gun, but not all is as it seems, and just ignore the description and flavor text which completely give it away for a second. Now, if we get a bit closer, you might notice that there are some very weirdly shaped sticks. I mean, they're sticky, but something isn't quite right about them. And if we get out the texture pattern itself for a bit of extra definition, as you can see, these aren't sticks at all, they're stick insects, or giant cockroaches as I like to call them. Anyway, the link with the name of the gun is that Crypsis refers to the ability of an animal to camouflage itself in the wild, and that makes a lot of sense, so take a second look. Next up, we've got the P250 Verdigris, and it may look like a fairly unremarkable P250 skin, although this CT apparently thinks it's quite interesting, but there is a little bit of science behind this skin. Basically, Verdigris is a type of green patina that forms on copper, brass or bronze when it's exposed to air. It's essentially a carbonate, so think of it as sort of like a green rust. It's not exactly the same, but it's a similar phenomenon. And given that, I think the gun's description, its little flavor text and its general appearance are probably all fairly self-explanatory at this point. Although, a cool little touch, the more worn the gun is, the more green it appears, which I think is a neat little thing about the skin. It's like a rust coat, but better looking. We've also got the AK-47 Uncharted. Now, this skin gives me immediate connotations of a different game, but as its Steam Workshop page makes clear, it's actually inspired by Maori and Aztec art, and although I can't speak for the designer, I think the swirls are meant to be kind of Maori, while the face is like a lot of Aztec themed tattoos. Next up, we've got the Tech 9, but hey, don't scratch yourself with that, dude, you could shoot yourself in the arse. The Tech 9 Bamboozle. And appearance-wise, this gun is fairly unremarkable. I mean, it looks like a piece of bamboo, but if you look at the flavor text, it says, "Don't be deceived," which, as you can imagine, almost certainly refers to the fact that someone who has been deceived can be described as having been bamboozled. Now, the creator of the Bamboozled also happens to be the creator of a far more infamous skin in this case, the Orp Atheris. Originally called the Orp Venom Strike, but the name was changed by Valve, but the new name does suit it quite well because the Atheris, as you might imagine, is a snake. Specifically, a genus of venomous vipers from Africa, sometimes called bush vipers, as the description says, which looks about right to me. And I think the flavor text, as deadly as it is beautiful, just suits this skin perfectly. There is also a cool Easter egg on the UMP Moonrise, but I've already done a whole video on that one, so I might just link it in the description. As for the R8 Revolver Skull Crusher, well, I will confess, I have been pretty mean to this skin in the past, and now is the time for me to say something nice. And first of all, I think this could be a pretty neat paint job for, Warhammer 40k orcs. But secondly, there's also something quite clever about its design, and to see what I mean, we'll have to go into a map. And you know what, once you're in matchmaking, I think this skin does look pretty good, although the character is waving it around like he's on drugs or something. But what you'll notice is that there are bones on the back of the gun, and specifically, there's a skull on part of the hammer. I think it's called a hammer. Anyway, I am Australian, so I'm not really that familiar with guns. But anyway, what this means is that when you fire it, well, this happens. The skull gets hammered into a blood red cavity. So, in a roundabout way, this gun is literally a skull crusher. Now, the Instigator, another classified skin from this case, has quite a bit of stuff worked into it as well. As you can see from the description, it's described as an alligator spitting fire, and this is an expression that has two principal meanings, and both of them are kind of reflected in the skin. First of all, spitting fire can mean to be angry and expressing yourself in an appropriate manner, and this kind of corresponds with the name of the weapon, which seems to be really similar to Instigator. I sort of think of it as somebody setting off a mob with angry words, for example, but The second meaning of spitting fire is to essentially rap really effectively. And the flavor text, boom, bam, bop, pow, ties directly into this. It's a reference to the character Super Hot Fire, who appears in a bunch of YouTube videos taking the piss out of rap battles, who basically uses it as a finishing move.
Boom, bam, bop, bada bop, boom, pow.
Also, I hope I got that meme right, because I'm a metal guy and I don't know shit about rap, and it also literally spits fire in game. And although I don't have an Easter egg for the 5-7 inside voices, ironically it does literally depict a mob spitting fire, and it is based on the same artwork as the M4A4 Hellfire, which is kind of cool. Which brings us to our final skin, the Emperor, which obviously I was going to have to end on. Now, if you're thinking that this gun looks like it might come from the same creator as the Empress, you would be correct, and in fact the same guy is also responsible for the Mortis as well. And the reason they've all got this similar art style is that they're all based on tarot cards, a type of playing card originally used to play games when they were invented in the 15th century, but nowadays they're primarily used for fortune telling and other occult quackery. And I have to say, Valve, this collection is fucking awesome. Can we get some more? Anyway, that's pretty much it for this video. If you enjoyed it, please like, comment, subscribe. Otherwise, trust the numbers, not your guts. I'm Heyzeus. Thanks for watching. See ya.